off camera, I went ahead and cut these 2x10s down oversized with a little circular saw, handheld circular saw. I'm going to square them up on the table saw, because the better our accuracy is, the better the joints will fit, the better the table will go together. So what I need to do first is adjust my saw blade so that it just clears the work. You never want more teeth coming out of the top than is actually needed. So that's about a half a tooth. Full carbide tooth off the top. I'm placing my lumber cup side down. Every piece of lumber pretty much you're going to find today has a cup in it. So I'm facing that down so that it's solid, it doesn't rock. And I'm just going to place the wood square against the back here. This fence is always machined and made square to the saw blade. So then I'm just going to line this up to just take a skim cut. Now that's exactly why I cut these pieces long, because you'll notice that this has got a taper on it. Even though I drew a square line on the lumber to start with, and the saw stayed on its tracks, it still cut a taper. So you cut your pieces long if you have the ability to, and then come back and square them on the table saw if you have one. Now this piece of lumber, this is a 24 piece, but I actually cut it this much too long because I've got a crack in the end of the lumber that comes through here. So I accounted for that. I moved past the knots, and I'm starting my first cut here where it's into clean wood and the knots aren't going to affect anything and I don't have a crack. So I'm going to finish cutting up these pieces of lumber. I have my stop adjusted here to give me a 34-inch cut, because my 34-inch is what my long pieces need to be, and I need two of these at 24 inches. So I'll go ahead and cut those up now. I've trimmed all the boards to one side. Now I've got a C-clamp set up on my compound here, so that stops it at 24 inches. So that means that the next cut I make will cut this off perfectly at 24 inches. I'm locked in square, so I'm going to give a nice square two-sided piece of lumber with 24 inches. And then I pick up the other piece, and I'm going to put that on here, and I'm going to cut that off, and I'll have both of my 24s done. I'll then relocate, take this clamp off the end, and let it bump up against the end stop, and cut my 34-inch pieces, and we'll be ready to go. Now anybody that knows woodworking knows that these pieces of wood should be run through a planer because they do have a little warp in them. I'm going to just put it out there and say I know that, but I'm not going to do that. I should, but I don't think it's necessary for this project. Between the wood glue and the screws, I think we're going to be okay. So let me go ahead and trim this piece. I'll trim the next piece, and then I'll see you after I'm all done with everything. Okay, two pieces, nice, square, to the same length. Moving on, I'll change my setup. I'll pick up the 34s. I don't need to do that on camera. Okay. I have that noisy three-phase generator turned off so I can talk to you and you can hear me. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take, and I've already got my table cleaned, so what I'll do is I'll take my board, lay it out like this. Now, which side do I want to put down? I'm going to put the other side into the joint. So what I want to do is flip this way, and then I'm going to take one 4x4, line it up to the outside edge, pull it in square, like that, and that's going to be where my glue joint is. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, line that up, make that nice and square, and now I know where to put my glue. Alright, so I'm going to turn that back over and pull this out, and I'm going to get my glue stuff set up, and we'll glue these joints and put them together. Okay, so we're ready to glue here. I've got a couple of different kinds of clamps. We're going to be using traditional woodworkers clamps. I've got some rapid close pistol grip clamps. We can use those. The clamp doesn't matter as long as you get nice good clamping force on it. This is a silicone glue tray. You can pick it up at woodworker supplies like Rockler or Woodcraft. I don't know if they have this in the big box stores. This is a silicone brush. It goes along with it. This, when you let it dry, the glue just dries in between, and you just pick it off, and there you go. Nothing to worry about, nothing to wash, no big hurry to be in. When you're done gluing, you just glue it. I'm going to take and use regular Tight Bond number 2. This is regular woodworkers glue. Everybody in the woodworking industry knows about that. It's easy to find, big box stores. I'm going to use a square. This will keep me square so that I can make sure the legs are right. And then as a double check, I'm just going to use a tape measure and a tape measure here so that we'll measure the inside. Inside dimension here should be 27 inches. And then we should have the same 27 inches at the outside end of our legs. And then if we really want to check it, we can go corner to corner, kitty corner to kitty corner, and those numbers should be the same. And then we know that we are very nice and square. So let's get some glue into the container here. And we're going to need a bunch of it. So I'm just going to pour it in here. Like that. let the air go back in, close it, get it out of the way. So I put a pencil mark here on my 2x10, so I know where that goes. Get some glue here, and we'll just get a good amount of glue, a good wet coverage all over the inside. Should I be careful? Yes, about dripping it on the inside here, but it's a forge. If this was fine furniture, I would be much more careful about it. I want to glue, get glue on all the surfaces here, and I'm going to put it on the bottom edge also. We're going to get some squeeze out, so I'm going to not worry about that, but we'll get that. That's covering all the surface really nice. We'll cover this mating surface on both pieces, both the vertical as you're seeing it, which is the shelf that we cut first, and down here along the whole length of the joint. And spread this out and get this nice. You could use Elmer's glue, you could use regular white glue, you could use anything. It really isn't that critical, but you need a glue that's designed for wood. So I'll just set that there for the moment. I'm going to be inverting this. Oops, I need to get a little glue on this surface, because these are going to be glued together too. Let's get some glue on there. Turn this over, line it up. Now pull this off the end so that I can get to it with a clamp. And I'm just going to take one of these quick clamps on this side here. Just keep it lined up. Now there is going to be some squeeze out because I did put a lot of glue here. If this was fine woodworking, you would want to put a little less glue, and you would want to let that dry. You don't want to be messing with it while it's wet, because you'll push it into the pores. So let me finish lining this up. I'm just a hair sideways, so I'm going to tap that until that comes in square, and we should be good there. Tap that. Pull this out just a little bit so I can get the other clamp on it. Make sure that that's nice and flush, that I can feel it. And get a clamp on here. And that moved, which is not surprising. Alright, this is a lesson in how not to glue. I get this back. Loosen it up. The glue actually helps the wood slide, so that's why when I picked it up and moved it, it moved on me. Moved on me a lot more than I expected it to. And I'll get this side. A little more. And get some real pressure on that, and we'll slide everything together. Loosen this, bring this back up. Just line things up. That's what you're looking to do. Should have a mallet here to help me. But this cut off will do. Okay, I'm going to finish wrestling with this and get the other side in, and then you can join me back in a minute. That glue joint only took a couple of minutes off camera to actually get things straightened out. So what I'm going to do now, I went ahead and I've glued this other side, and I'm just going to flip the joint over. I've got a piece of scrap underneath here to lift it up off the table. That was part of my problem I had with the other one. I just wasn't prepared to reach underneath and get it. So I'm going to flip this over and drop this right on top of my other piece here, lining it up, keeping it square. And like I said, that glue does act like a lubricant to the wood. Really wants to make it slide a little bit, but that's a good thing. That gives you enough time to actually get a little bit of clamping done or move pieces for alignment. Now these clamps here, they work by this one pushes the end out, and then this would pull it in, so I can take and clamp if I want more pressure on the nose. If I want more pressure on the nose, I can open this up, and that'll put the pressure down on the nose. If I want to just pull it in tight, I can just clamp straight down with that, and then clamp tight on the bottom, and that'll hold it. And the same thing goes here. Now that I've got a little bit of room, I still need to get underneath, and the way these screws are, that's not going to really be conducive. So I will do this, slide underneath, and drop that down, pull this up, and push that down. And now that's down really tight. How square is that? Needs to go out just a hair. That's how well those clamps grip. Now that they're tight, they really don't want to let this move. That's a good thing. Almost there. Alright. Got that side in. See what we got on this side. This side is still good. So there we go. Now we have on this, we've got from the inside dimension 27 inches. We should have 27 inches down here. And we don't. Son of a gun. Okay, so what we need to do is pull this in until we do. I've got a whole ½ inch. Pardon my back. That's way too far. I knew it was. I'm going to need to get a wooden mallet here in just a minute. Okay, a couple of minutes of tapping it around and we got it. We're 27 across the bottom. And if we go inside corner here, that we can always repeat to the inside leg, that's 38 and just over a half. And if I flip this around and go the other way, we're 37 and just over a half, and that's 37 just over a half. So if this is diagonal, 37, just a hair over a half, and this is 37 and just a hair over a half. Okay, and then we are 27 inches, and at the other end inside we are 27 inches. So we know we are square, and we know that our numbers are right. So we're going to let this set up overnight, let the glue harden, and in the morning we'll come back and I'll show you how to make this out of 2x4s, just in case you don't have a table saw. You can make the same joint out of 2x4s. It's a little different, but the end result's going to be the same. So we'll let this set up overnight. It's the next day. I've taken the clamps off and cleaned everything up. 30 years plus of being a tool maker for Boeing, I couldn't leave any square corners. That's just something that's ingrained in you. So off camera, I took the assembly outside and ran a belt sander with 120 grit sanding belt to clean things up a little bit, and then I went over it with a vibratory sander, palm sander, round disc, 6-inch, 60 grit, and then 120 grit. So what we're going to use to put this together here, these are construction screws, 3 inches long. These are self-tapping in several media. These will go through wood, masonry, concrete, drywall, plastic, etc., etc. They're self-drilling and they are self-countersinking. So these are just going to go in pretty easy. These are 3-inch. They're going to go in from the face, from this side, down into the 4x4. That's the end of the 4x4. And that's the joint there. That's the 2x10 across the top. That's where we recessed it back. So we've got a step right here. We have a nice little lap. It's called a lap joint. And we're solidly glued. That's not going to come apart, but just to add a little bit extra reinforcement, we're going to go ahead and put the screws in. So let me put you on the tripod so I can get back to work. So I've decided how I want to put my screws in here, and what I've done is I've taken my square head and I've set it to 1.5 inches, and then scribe a line with a pencil, and I set it to 1 inch, scribe the line with a pencil. That gave me 2 rows right down evenly spaced on the 4x4. Then if you take this area here and you come up 1 inch and 5/8, down 1 inch and 5/8, that then gives you the ability to go 2 inches, 2 inches, and everything's nice and equally spaced. So you're 1 5/8, 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches, 1 5/8. So that makes a nice pattern. These screws are a special type of screw. The bit comes with the screws. So I'll just put that on. There's a bubble on the back of my drill motor here so that I can line things up nice and straight, so I know I'm straight. Just go flush. Now if you look, this is the screw here, so that's just about where I want. That's maximum amount of hold. I'm going to go ahead and do this to the other side as well, and when I get done with that, I'll be back on camera.